involved shooting that occurred in Hinsdale on Wednesday. I just want to reiterate before the Berkshire District Attorney speaks that we are extremely early in this investigation. While we are trying to provide as much information as possible, it's extremely difficult to answer questions beyond what is being shared today due to where we are. We're only a couple days out at this point. Thank you.
Good. Thank you all for coming. Good afternoon. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I had to meet with the decedent's family, so I wanted to speak with them before I spoke with you all today. Thank you for joining us today. Prior to summarizing the investigation at this point, I want to stress that this investigation is still in the preliminary stages. I recognize that as this involves law enforcement, it's critical that we communicate as much as possible. As the investigation is ongoing, there may be updates or alterations. At this time, since it's an active investigation, we will not be releasing the names of the officers involved in the incident. While I recognize there's been a lot of information released, including names of the officers by civilians on social media, that is not in control of my office. As there is a decedent in this case, we are able to name him. The decedent's name is Biagio Kauvil. He was 27 years old and resided in the state of New York. The investigation thus far indicates that leading up to Wednesday's incident, Mr. Kauvil was displaying paranoid and delusional thoughts that he expressed on social media and in conversation with the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, otherwise known as NTOC, and to his family and to law enforcement. He shared that he felt as though he was being listened to by law enforcement, was being attacked by organized crime groups and others. This was relayed by the NTOC. He thought that someone was trying to lure him into the house, into a machine in his basement that would damage the body and drain the life, and the machine induces suicidal thoughts. Earlier this week, the FBI's National Threat Operations Center contacted the Dalton Communications Center to report information regarding Mr. Kauvil to the Dalton Police. NTOC stated that Mr. Kauvil placed a call to the center making claims that sparked mental health concerns. At no time was Mr. Kauvil ever wanted by the FBI. The purpose of NTOC's call to Dalton PD was to communicate a concern about Mr. Kauvil's mental health. Based on the NTOC call, law enforcement felt though it was important to perform a well-being check. A be on the lookout was issued. On Wednesday, January 9th, between 9:42 a.m. and 9:57 a.m., there were 5 abandoned 911 calls placed and or returned to by Mr. Kauvil. On one call, there was an audio muffled banging consistent with the sound of someone repeatedly hitting the phone receiver. These calls further amplified law enforcement and their concern for his safety. At approximately 9:59 a.m., the chief of the Hinsdale Police Department reported they were responding to 53 off South Street for the well-being check and requested mutual aid from the Dalton Police Department. While officers were on the scene, at approximately 10:26 a.m., Mr. Kauvil called 911 and spoke to dispatch, further expressing paranoid thoughts and stating he might actually be okay. He was on the phone with 911 dispatch for approximately 16 minutes. During the call, a female can be heard in the background trying to make contact with Mr. Kauvil through what was later determined to be a bedroom door. Throughout the 911 call, Mr. Kauvil continued to express paranoid thoughts and became agitated, argumentative with his family members who were still in the house. Approximately 15 minutes into the call, law enforcement can be heard speaking to Mr. Kauvil through the door. At this time, Mr. Kauvil stated he was willing to speak with law enforcement in the house, and the 911 call therefore ends. A member of the Hinsdale Police Department began speaking with Mr. Kauvil. At this time, Mr. Kauvil was sequestering himself in a back bedroom of the house located on the first floor. The officer speaking through the door had positive rapport with Mr. Kauvil after previously assisting him with car troubles in the past. At approximately 10:50 a.m., Dalton Police contacted an ambulance to confirm they were prepared to transport Mr. Kauvil to the hospital for a mental health evaluation. Officers also requested that there be limited radio traffic as to not further agitate Mr. Kauvil. During this time, a determination was made by law enforcement that the bedroom door needed to be breached. At 10:58 a.m. and 15 seconds, there's a radio transmission that notifies of a taser deployment. At 10:58 and 31 seconds, officers advised that shots had been fired. At 10:59 and 21 seconds, officers request immediate ambulance response. At the same time, law enforcement began immediately rendering aid to both the law enforcement member who was shot and Mr. Kauvil. From preliminary investigations, it has been determined that Mr. Kauvil had a gun in his left hand, he's left-handed, when officers breached the bedroom door. When officers entered the bedroom, one officer was able to wrap his arms around Mr. Kauvil's waist and attempt to restrain him against the wall. However, he maintained the gun. Officers worked to restrain him on the bed. Mr. Kauvil's gun then fires. Shortly after the shot, an officer uses the taser. Mr. Kauvil is tased and briefly subdued. However, when the effects of the taser diminish, he again becomes agitated, stating, "Kill me, kill me." The taser is deployed a second time. Mr. Kauvil is once again briefly subdued, but then resumes to struggle. An officer orders Mr. Kauvil to drop the gun. An officer discharges a firearm, and an officer is hit by a single round in a friendly fire, and 6 seconds later, a second round is discharged, striking the civilian, Mr. Kauvil, in the head. Immediately thereafter, officers informed dispatch that shots had been fired, they secured the scene, they removed Mr. Kauvil's firearm from the room, and they began rendering aid. Then requests for information about if there were other individuals at the house during the time of the event. At this time, we do know that at the start of the investigation, there were people in the house. However, based upon the investigation, the family had left the house well before the breach by the police officers. At this time, it's far too soon to comment on if charges will be brought forward. We will work to bring this to a conclusion as soon as possible. However, I cannot comment, nor do I know what the timeline will be. So at this point, I want to thank you for being here, and that's the information that I have. But I will open up to any questions that I possibly could answer. I'm going to start right here, Josh.
So, given that it seems like there's a lot of telegraphing about mental health issues with this person, I think I'm interested in why there weren't any mental health professionals dispatched to this situation.
Question I want to know. So we're going to find that out. We're not full of the investigations. Not everybody's been interviewed, but I have that same question. So there's those questions that we want answered. And again, I'm 48 hours into this, so I don't have enough information at this stage. But we're going to look into that.
And then just to follow up on that, procedurally speaking, from a law enforcement perspective, it seems like the crucial moment in this is that decision to breach the door. Can you sort of shed some light onto that from like a law enforcement perspective? What led up to that decision being the right one?
I don't know that yet because I haven't spoken to the police officers and we haven't taken statements from them. One police officer was in surgery as of yesterday afternoon. So again, a lot of these questions that I want to answer for you, I cannot at this stage, only because I don't have that information. But I have the same questions, and we're gonna make sure those questions get answered. We just need time to do that. Sure, Dan.
Yeah, hi Tim. Is training for police officers mandatory in Massachusetts, and what training, if any, did the Hinsdale police have to deal with mental health crises?
Again, I don't know a lot of that. I do know the chief in Hinsdale was a former police officer in Connecticut. He's had a lot of experience. He's got a background. Obviously, all these officers had to go through an academy, and that's part of the training these days. Whether there was recent training or not, it's a very small department, 6 officers and a chief. I don't know. We'll find out how much was done on that, but clearly this is going to be looked at, and policies will be looked at, and the idea of mental health aspect will be looked at. This was a terrible tragedy, and it's just everybody was put in a very bad situation, and it was volatile, and it happened quickly. So we learned from everything that happens, and we'll continue to review that. Again, I've only had to go through this tape, and the shooting takes about 46 seconds. I can tell you, my first assistant and the state police have been through that at 3 hours at a time, going through a 40-second clip, just going frame by frame by frame. We still, I'm only here today because there's a lot of rumors going out in the community. I wanted to straighten that out. I didn't want people saying he was wanted by the FBI. He's not wanted by the FBI. There was just misinformation, so I really wanted to get that information out there. I'm sorry I can't give you more information than that, but I really wanted it clear of what we know at this stage. But again, this may change once I haven't seen the ballistics, I haven't seen the autopsy report. There's a lot of stuff I don't have yet. But I just felt the public deserved to know as quickly as possible what transpired, especially in light of what's happening nationally. So I just thought it was important.
If I hear you correctly, there seems to be body camera video
yes, there is.
Released at any point.
I don't know about that yet. This is a horrific scene, and there is a deceased person. and it's a very sad situation. It's a mental health situation. As you know, I'm calling him Mr. Kauvil. I'm not calling him a suspect or anything like that. It's a very sad situation. So I'm cognizant of that. We just have a lot more work to do. Sure, right here.
Well, we'll focus on the gun. A series of questions about the gun. First of all, did officers know that he was armed when they breached the door? Second of all, at what point, I'm also interested in whether, why they attempted to subdue him while he was still holding the gun, and also wondering what kind of firearm it was and whether he was registered to have it.
Okay, good questions. Let me answer first off that. He had a license to carry for a long period of time. So I don't know when it was issued. I don't know if people are aware that it should have been revoked because he had a mental health breakdown a couple days beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm unaware of that at this stage. But I can tell you that the officers knew that he had a license to carry, but my understanding is that the officers were informed that he did not have a weapon on him that day. But again, we still haven't vetted all the information out. So at this stage, the belief they had was he did not have a weapon, but that he did have a license to carry. And when they went in there, he's left-handed, and so the left hand. They didn't see the firearm at first. I see it, and we've still photoed it, showing the black handgun in his left hand. Again, he is left-handed, and it's in his hand. So they didn't know that at that point in time. I'm not sure when they became aware of it, again, because we haven't spoken with them yet, but they're on top of him underneath there, and that's when the firearm shoots, and it hits the officer, mobilizes him, goes through his hand, and goes through, that bullet goes through and hits the chief in the chest. Mm-hmm. And it lodges in his vest, which we have that projectile.
What size room are we talking about? Because
It's a small room.
Okay. And I have to ask the question: who was the officer who fired the shot that killed Mr. Kauvil?
I'm not giving you that information yet. Not until I get the ballistics report back, so I can confirm and actually know. There's a lot more information that I need to get, so I'm not comfortable releasing that until I have all the facts. I don't think it's fair to anybody until I know when I look at the corroboration to see. I've seen the videotape. I have my suspicions, but I want to make sure that the ballistics report match that. Again, I normally wouldn't do this. We don't have ballistic reports yet. I haven't even seen the medical records yet. I haven't seen the autopsy report yet. There's so much thing to go. I'm here solely because I was concerned about the social media aspect of this, and I was also concerned about the national, what's happening nationally across our country with ICE. And so that concerned me, that I wanted to make sure that we address this because it is a law enforcement situation. So you were had a long time ago, so go ahead.
Considering he was paranoid that the police were after him, was there a discussion had about how visible police presence might escalate paranoia in this specific case?
Yeah, there was. I know that there was talk about. First off, he was also going. He was concerned with his family. He thought they were doing it. So that's disconcerting because there were people in the house, and I want to make sure. They want to make sure. I'm sure that the family wasn't at risk as well. It wasn't a lot of. Most of the cars were parked down the street. So it wasn't as visible as you might think it was. It's a very desolate street, as you know by now. There's not a lot of houses on it. They were down there, and the police officer that first spoke with him was someone that he had a positive interaction with. And it seemed to calm him down. So it seemed like it was working. And then again, I don't know when the decision was made to breach, but at that point, the decision was made to breach, and that's, I told you everything else that I know at this point. Right here.
First a clarification and then a question. You mentioned a 40-second video. That 40 seconds starts at what point in the action and goes to when? Well,
the video is long because they are on the scene for a while. So we've got the entire transaction. I think it's 46 seconds is the total amount of time that the breach happens and the final shot that goes off and he's beginning rendering aid.
I think you're referring to the radio transmission that the district attorney went through that timeline. He wasn't referring to the video transmission.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
the video's long, but the incident itself was less than a minute.
Gotcha. And so I was wondering, from what you can tell from the video, what was it that the officer was responding to, or like what informed the officer's decision to start shooting at the men? I
don't have the answer why he started shooting. I haven't interviewed him. I don't think the police have interviewed him yet. So I can't answer that. What was in his mind? I know a shot was fired. An officer was hit. The other officer believed that he was hit in the chest. You hit by a bullet. He's breathing hard. He goes, I'm hit in the chest. And the other officer says, he's shot. He's gone right through his hand. Mm-hmm. And then at that point in time, there's two tasers, doesn't go down. This is all happening fast.
Yep.
And then the first shot and then the second shot. And the second shot was 6 seconds after the first shot. That's what I know.
Okay, so there was a period of time where a taser was used between
Right.
the suspect's gun going off and then the actual officer shooting.
Yeah, that officer's taser was discharged twice, so it had run out. So it was done.
Gotcha.
That officer actually, at that point in time, I think was ready to take her revolver out, or her firearm out as well, because the taser was gone. Taser was done. Sure. You asked. I saw a long time ago.
Since there was a struggle happening at the time, currently is the investigation investigating whether it was an accidental fire off of the gun, that was in the person's hand who was having a well-being check, or if it was a purposeful discharge of the gun.
Yeah, that we don't know. I'll be honest with you. All I know is he had the gun in his hand, and it was, and he's left-handed, and the gun was shot. So that's the only information I have at this stage. So we've got more work to do. But yeah, you can. I'm going to let you follow up.
So just circling back to
Yes.
the co-responder, so or not a co-responder or a mental health professional, as you understand right now, there wasn't a mental health professional or co-responder on the scene.
That's my understanding. Again, we haven't interviewed her, but that's my understanding. And I know that that they were bringing the ambulance there to take him to, I don't think they thought there was a gun. I think they thought they were going to subdue him, put him in the ambulance, bring him to the hospital, and get him treated at the hospital. So I don't know why the decision was made. I don't have those answers for you, and I don't want to speculate. I'm only telling you the facts that I know as I've seen them in the last 48 hours. And I can tell you, these people have been working around the clock. You're talking 2, 3 in the morning and back at work at 6 a.m. So we're getting as much information out to you as quickly as we possibly can. All right, we'll start here. I don't think I've answered any of your 2 questions, so we'll do that.
Thank you, sir. Matt Price, Western Mass News. First off, looking at the release that was sent out yesterday, that there was a NTOC alert about this individual on Tuesday.
Yes.
My first question is, was this person known to police in the weeks prior to this incident, or was this the first time?
My understanding is they weren't, and I'm not sure of that yet. Again, we haven't spoken to the officers yet, so once I get that information, I'll know a little bit better. But my understanding was it became known to them then. I don't know if it was known to them beforehand. We'll find that out. That's information that, again, questions that I have that you're asking, that they're in my mind as well. So, and then police officers, law enforcement. I'm gonna let you keep going, so go ahead.
Yeah, a couple more questions. First off, I think you said you spoke with the officers' families before you came.
I spoke to the decedent's family because I didn't want them having to read about this or see this on the news.
Understood. In regards to the officers, though, have you spoken to their families, and do you know how the officers are doing at this time?
I only know when the officer was in surgery as of 4 o'clock yesterday. My understanding is that the officer is going to be okay. He's doing well, but he had a serious injury. It was very serious. I believe he's going to be discharged from the hospital soon, but not yet. So again, that restricts us from having the availability to speaking to that particular officer. So, and the other officer, the chief who was hit in the chest, is off as well right now. But luckily, the bullet did not penetrate the skin, so it was in his vest.
And the other question I have is, like, from an emotional standpoint, like, what have you been hearing from, law enforcement and the community? Like, how shocked is
Devastated.
everybody?
Devastated. The officers are devastated. They're upset. Everybody who's in the room is getting mental health treatment themselves right now. There's a very volatile, difficult situation. Everybody feels horrible. This is a terrible tragedy, and it affects them gravely. Our police officers go out every single day, and the trauma that they have to experience and deal with is difficult. And so right now, of course, they're devastated, and there's just, it's an awful situation. So, yeah.
And one more follow-up
Sure.
to that. In response to that, because I spoke with some people from the community, Hinsdale and Dalton, and they say they're shocked, saying that this is rare that something like this happens. How rare is it overall in Berkshire County for something like this to happen, an officer-involved shooting, especially if it's a shooting that sadly ends up deadly?
Well, unfortunately, it happened 2 years ago in Hancock, but no, it's not common. It's not common at all. It's very uncommon, and I think that as time goes on, the more we educate, the community, and we educate all of us about mental health, the more we deal with the mental health issues. We don't have enough mental health workers. Let's be honest. We just don't have enough. They don't get paid enough. We need more, and unfortunately, that's a big problem. And we're trying to address that. We need to get more people in the mental health field here because I know his family had struggled with him having mental health, and they tried to get services. They tried real hard to get services for him, but there's not a lot to be found. And you're in a small town like, you know, Hinsdale, and he's now living over in New York, so it was difficult. But I know the family tried real hard. They're devastated. They've lost their son and their brother, and it's just an awful tragedy.
Do you believe that, knowing that there was no mental health responder at the scene, as you said, do you think this changes things? Should something like a mental health issue that's known to police in the future, does this lead to change?
Well, you're asking to speculate again, but I think anytime an incident like this happens, we have to look at all of it, and we have to learn from it, and then change ways that we do things as we go. So I think in some sense, yes, no matter what we do, I can't stress enough how important it is that mental health is part of the criminal justice system. It really is imperative that we have them involved in this, because there is a lot of mental health, untreated individuals out in the community that we ask police officers to do. We need to have more mental health professionals, and I think we got to push our legislators to get more services for these departments, to have social workers that are on scene, licensed clinical social workers that can deal with these issues, that are trained in that. But when you're in a small community, a town of 1,900 people with 6 police officers, you know, the funding and the availability of these resources isn't always there. But, you know, I agree. I mean, I think mental health is a strongly important issue. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let her go first. I'm going to ask you.
Thank you.
Yeah, kind of going off of the similar conversation
Yes.
we're having about mental health, crisis response. In Pittsfield, I know in 2024 there was a program launched, the Joint Response Team, where
Yep.
incorporate mental health professionals into crisis response. Is this something that Hinsdale or any other responding agencies have currently?
I'm sorry to interrupt. We really can't speak to what other departments have. I know I referenced that in my press release yesterday. Any department-specific questions need to be directed to said department. I think the district attorney's answer is going to be repetitive and again and again. We
Yeah,
cannot speak to police department's policies. We cannot speak to what they do when they respond. And I encourage you to reach out to those law enforcement agencies.
You know, that's really not our purview. You know, we hope that people will have that and they do that. But again, I'm here to judge what I observed and what happened, and to try to give you guys as much information as I possibly can. You were waiting, and then Dan, I'll go to you next, okay?
Regarding the original call to the NTOC, is that a center that the decedent had a history of calling? Is there any reason that's known of
I don't
why
know that
they
yet.
were called?
I don't know that yet. I know that call was made, and they were concerned enough, the FBI was, to contact the local authorities to tell them there was, and again, a person was in mental health crisis. That's why
But
they
there was no
provided.
history of them being in communication with him? Was there? a
Don't know that yet.
relationship
I
there?
only know what we found out about Tuesday. So we will look back to see if there's any other, whether communication weeks before or any time before that. My guess is that this was so volatile that's why they called Dalton on that particular day. They had felt it had raised to that level. I don't know the past history. I'm sorry, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I just guess I'm wondering, it's
Yeah.
sort of not something you hear often, that they've been called by
Right.
somebody.
I think it's the first time I've ever heard that.
Right.
You know, so
that's
it's.
sort of what.
Yeah, me too. And so, you know, and I applaud them for at least letting us know and for doing it and having that type of line that's open. So it was good that information came to us. It's just unfortunate that it wasn't in a way that we could avoid the situation. So Dan, I said you next.
Yeah, can you identify the community in New York State where he was living
I-
and what he might have been doing with his life in
We're
don't
really
have it.
unsure at this point as to that community and where he was in his life.
I only had a short conversation, about an hour, with the family. I haven't had enough time to figure out what he was doing with his life, and that, again, we're following up with mother. The decedent's mother was interviewed last night. I haven't read the reports on that yet, so I don't really know enough yet. We're gonna find out. We're gonna look at everything's gonna be looked at. We'll look at details.
As far as you know, he was living on his own somewhere in New York
We
State?
cannot speak to
Yeah.
any
Can't
of
speak
his
to
living
Yeah, I don't.
situation.
You know, Dan, I'd be speculating and guessing. I don't really know at all. I mean, I'm gonna go right back around. And I'll come back to you, Josh, in the end. Go ahead.
Does Mr. Kauvil have a criminal record? And also, did the family express direct fear to law enforcement that they feared they were in danger, or was the concern solely on Mr. Kauvil?
I think the concern was on Mr. Kauvil. Again, I don't want to speak for them, and I don't want to talk about his past history. I can tell you that he has no criminal convictions on his record as we speak right now. So I don't want to get into you know, that background, but he did not appear to have anything that would be disconcerting to anybody. But
From what you could tell from the video, did the officers ever manage to get the gun away from him? I know you said that they didn't see it initially, but I was wondering if at any point they managed to get it away.
after the second shot, yes, when he was immobilized, at that point in time, he stopped fighting then. He was still alive, but he stopped fighting, and so they were able to retrieve the firearm at that point, and we have the firearm. Josh, you.
So just a basic, it's Biagio Kauvil, Biagio, that Biagio Kauvil.
I'll send
no.
out the
No,
spelling.
it's Biagio
and,
Kauvil, Kauvil,
Okay. And
27.
okay.
Kauvil.
And
it's
last,
Biagio.
right, Biagio.
He goes by B.
B. And as far as the property itself, just to clarify, this was family property.
I
but
don't know
not
if they
his-
own or renting.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I just know this is where his mother lived.
Gotcha.
And he had been there before, stayed there before, so I believe he stayed the night before. You haven't asked a question yet.
I'm not sure if you're able to tell us like how old he was. Did he have a family of his own, like maybe kids or anything like that?
He was 27. I don't believe he had any children, but I don't know any more than that at this stage. I do tell you that he was 27. He's a young man, and I heard nothing but great things about him in the community. So, you know, and again, because of the mental health case, you notice how I'm treating it and speaking of him. I'm speaking as an individual that unfortunately died in this traumatic event. And so it breaks my heart. You know, it's very difficult to lose a child. Very difficult situation for everybody that was involved.
And another question that I have is, do we know how long the officers may be on leave?
That's really going to depend upon, one's medical, so I don't know how long. Others are just, I don't know if people can come back from this, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what their plans are, but I'm just saying, as a human, I can understand what they're going through, and they've gone through a lot of trauma. And that's up to them, and we'll see as much time as they possibly need.
And the last question that I
Yeah.
had, do you believe that he was close with his family, is what they might be saying?
Again, I don't know enough about the relationship. It appears like they were. I knew enough from people in the community that said that he seemed to be a nice kid. You know, everybody seemed to like him. So, but I don't know enough about it. And I know that he wasn't involved. He wasn't someone involved with law enforcement. It wasn't something on anybody's radar. He wasn't a risk to anybody. You know, again, all the things that I hear is nothing but, you know, that he seemed to be a decent individual, but suffered from, you know, serious mental illness. And he didn't recognize it. He kept saying that he was okay that day, but yet he's yelling, "Kill me, kill me." So he wasn't okay. But in his mind, he thought he was. And he just had this delusion that there was a machine in the basement and it was going to try to suck his body away. And it was just, mental health is an awful thing. So.
Let me get a little more into the specifics of the actual shooting, because questions about the gap, the 6-second gap between the first shot, which strikes an officer in the elbow, and the second shot, which hits him in the head. Also, the fact that was he conscious and alert at the after he had been. Was Mr. Kauvil conscious and alert at the time he'd been shot? Was he?
He was mumbling. I don't know if he was conscious.
Yeah.
I can say that you could hear him breathing. It seems like he was responding to some questions, but again, that's very difficult for me to understand where he's at. I don't know if his body reacting or whether he's mentally reacting.
Right.
This is a serious wound.
Right, because I mean, I suppose there's, without seeing the footage, it's hard to understand why he was shot in the head. It's not my understanding that that's typical.
I think we're getting far too in the
That
weeds
might
at
be,
this point.
Right,
Yeah.
that's a question people would have.
Exactly, it's a
We
question
get it.
people
It's
would
a question
have.
that- Again, you know, Greg, there's lots of questions that I have. You know, I don't know yet.
Mhm.
Again, normally I would not be doing this. I'm only doing this because I just saw stuff out that was disturbing to everybody's families, and I just thought it had to be out. I mean, he wasn't wanted by the FBI. People are saying that he was wanted by the FBI. That is just absolutely not true. This was a mental health case. This was a tragedy. That's exactly what it was.
Thank you.
Sure. No questions yet. So yeah.
So now you mentioned officers weren't aware of the gun. Now do we know like where the gun had exactly came from? Like, do you know where he was like hiding it, like where it came from?
Well, they breached the door, and the gun, as soon as he's up against the wall, I see the gun in his left hand. And I don't think they knew he was left-handed, but it's a small gun, even though it's 38 caliber. It's very small, but I can see it as plain as day. But they were on him, and then he was on the floor, and he struggled with him up onto the bed. They were on top of him, and that's when the firearm goes off hits the officer, goes through, hits the chief goes back, because he's now got the wind knocked out of him, and that's when the taser takes place. After the tasers, that's when the shots take place.
So at no point he was hiding the gun, right? It was clearly visible.
I don't know if he was hiding beforehand. When they
Yeah.
had him up against the wall,
Okay.
he's got the gun right here, and his left hand up against the wall. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
So I don't know how it was beforehand. Again, it's small, and it's in his hand, and he's a big guy. Go ahead. You had one here.
Yeah, do you know why or what led the officers to make the decision that he didn't have a gun, or what the process was, why they thought he didn't have a gun?
My understanding is that they were under the belief, based upon conversations they have with other individuals, that there was not a gun present today, on that day. But again, we haven't interviewed everybody. I don't know. That could change. But right now, it appeared that they did not believe that he had a gun. But unfortunately, he did have a gun. And that changes everything. If you knew he had a gun, it may have changed the response.
Is he in an aggressive stance at the time that he shot?
I think we're getting
Yeah.
far too into the
Yeah,
weeds right
Well,
now.
like I said, he was on the bed, so
Yeah.
and they were up trying. He's struggling. They're trying to cuff him. He doesn't want to be cuffed. They're struggling. Gun goes off.
Okay.
Here we go.
At
That's all I
this
can
point
tell
in time, I don't think we're going to accept any more questions on the actual, those 6 seconds the district attorney referred to. If anyone else has any general questions, we're happy to answer them, but I feel like we're kind of getting into a loop right now.
Right.
Just one, the Dalton, I don't know, it was DCC, Dalton.
Dalton Communication Center.
Okay, yeah, I just wasn't familiar with that. Can you
Dispatch.
just- Oh, it's dispatch, okay.
Yeah, Dalton Communication Center.
Okay.
And that's why the FBI calls them, notifies them.
Okay.
That will cover Hinsdale as well. So, and then they thought at that time, they had an address for Dalton. So they checked that address in Dalton. He wasn't there. And as we know now, we didn't know that then he was actually living in the state of New York. They did check, Hinsdale checked off 53 off South Street location on Tuesday night as well. He wasn't there yet. I know the car was overnight because there was snow in the car and it snowed that night. So at some point in time he got there that night, but when they went there the night before, he wasn't there. It wasn't until the next day that he starts making these calls at 9:42 in the morning, and that kind of gets things going. So, you know.
And those were calls to the Dalton dispatch?
Those were calls to Dalton Dispatch, correct. And those are the calls that we were able to monitor. Good.
Another question I had, because you said how devastating and tragic this whole scenario is, and mentioning how there is a need for mental health professionals in this area, at least in that area. But what, as of right now, like, what message do you have for the community, whether it's someone who may be dealing with a mental health crisis, or a friend or family member who may not know someone is going through something, like knowing how tragic it is with the mental health aspect of it? Like, what's your message to those community members? Because sometimes you just don't know what's up.
You don't know, but there's a lot of hotline numbers, and those numbers, including suicide hotline numbers. Those you should reach out to anybody you possibly can. Get the help that this person needs. They need professional help, and family members, unfortunately, they can try all they want. They're not professionals. They need professional help. So again, I think that one of the messages that comes out of all these cases that we have is that mental health has to be part of the criminal justice system, and mental health has to be a component when we're dealing with these situations. That someone is in a mental health crisis situation, is not thinking clearly, and obviously in this particular case, asking himself to be killed is just very disconcerting.
I promise this is general. I wonder if you could just take me through the protocol and the process of the investigation of an officer-involved shooting, how it works, how, I'm not gonna,
We take it over.
Right.
So immediately after the call comes through, I got the call from my detective lieutenant, Dickinson, and he said everybody that we had up to Hinsdale. We took it over from Hinsdale. We do our own independent investigation, and we're looking at all aspects. We take this with a neutral eye, and so that's the procedure that we use. I can't talk about Hinsdale's procedures or anybody other department's procedures, but we take it over from there. It's our case, and then we build that, and we bring in other services. Whether it's obviously the OCME, the Office of the Medical Examiner's Office. We bring in people from crime services that will photograph, and we bring in ballistics people, and everybody that needs to be brought in. We control it, and these guys have been literally 2 o'clock in the morning, back to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. They have worked around the clock. I know they're exhausted, and they're gonna have a big, busy weekend this weekend. Yeah. So,
has there been support from the state, any state agencies for this?
I don't believe we've needed any state agencies.
Okay.
I mean, we have Massachusetts State Police,
Yeah.
that we obviously are using those agencies that are coming out here for forensic services, photographing and doing the forensic work. Yeah, they're involved, but we're well equipped here. Luckily, And we have a tremendous state police office. We have 50 troopers up there. We have a digital evidence lab where we have one of the most advanced offices in the state. So we're lucky with that, and I'm proud of my troopers that are here. They do a great job, and they have been all over it. So I feel good that I can even speak to you today because of the amount of work that they put into it. And they get a lot of pressure, you know, because you guys are all asking us, and I'm asking them, and what can we provide? And I give them the credit for doing this work, to getting these answers to you as quickly as we possibly can, working around the clock. And they have families too, you know, but they put them aside for this. So I commend them for doing that. Go ahead.
Were there established concrete mental health protocols for responding to these situations, and do you know if those protocols were followed?
I don't know I don't know every department's protocols for mental health mental health cases. You'd have to ask that to the town of Hinsdale and to the Hinsdale Police Department. It's impossible for me to know everybody's policy. You know, I know some of the bigger towns because we've dealt with the issue. I know, like, for example, Pittsfield has expanded the amount of people that they have for social workers, so that we get people around the clock. That's a good step. But, you know, again, it's money, and we've got to put resources into this. It's a very important issue, and the more we talk about it, I hope one thing that comes out of this, we can talk more about legislative work that needs to be done, and we can talk about resources that need to be given to mandate that we have mental health professionals working with police officers and working with individuals that are on the street that haven't been able to get the services that they need. And this is unfortunate here. I know, speaking to the family thing, they tried to get services for him. Unfortunately, there's not a lot available, and there's not a lot available in the Berkshires. Yes.
Is it possible that some of the officers involved in this might face discipline, and if so, what would the process be?
That's a question I'm not even near ready to answer any questions like that, because again, I don't have all the information yet. This was solely meant to put the community at ease, to know what happened. And that's all I can tell you right now. I am not near done the job I have to do. There's a lot more work we're gonna do. We're gonna look into everything. Any other questions? Great, because that's a lot. Go ahead.
Who is the current acting chief right now?
It is Bruce Culver, who is the Cullett, Cullett, from the town of Peru. He's the Peru police chief. He's taking administrative responsibilities, and there is another officer in the Hinsdale department that has sort of taken the reins as the local higher leader. But we lost, obviously, a sergeant is off and the chief is off. So, and it's a small department. So. And also Dalton is working with them, and the Cheshire Barracks, the state police, are also taking care of it. So safety is not an issue because we have backfilled that with both Peru, Dalton, and the Cheshire Barracks and the state police.
Regarding the officers that are now off, is there another officer who was the one involved in the shooting that is also on administrative leave?
That's really Hinsdale specific.
Yeah,
we'll refer you back to Hinsdale.
Yeah, I don't make those calls. It's up for the town to make those calls. So I don't think he's working, but I don't know those answers because I don't have, it's not my purview. Anything else? We good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can you spell that interim police chief's name one more time, please?
It's Cullett.
C-U-L.
Yeah, you can look it up online. It's the town of Peru Police.
Town of Peru Police.
Thank you very
But I believe it's Cullett.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm not, again, I would check it.